Hello, and welcome to the RightNOW Podcast. My name is Distin, Senior Director of Customer Experience at Rightworks. You know, the accounting profession is over 7,000 years old. We actually can trace its roots back to ancient Mesopotamia. And in the last 7,000 years, suffice to say, a lot has changed to this profession. I'm very humbled that you have joined me today, and I'm very thankful for the opportunity to speak to a number of folks across this great profession and the industries that support it to talk about the changes that are currently evolving this great profession. Joining me today, Nancy Hawkins, Vice President of Product Management at Thomson Reuters. Nancy, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have a little bit of a conversation here. But before we get started, just let me ask you this question. How long have you been supporting the accounting profession?
I've been with Thomson Reuters for over 12 years, but I've been out in our tax segment since 2018.
Okay. So you've seen a lot of changes, obviously, in the last 12 years, but especially perhaps in the last 6 years.
Absolutely.
In your mind, what is the biggest change that has occurred in, let's call it, the last 24 months?
Absolutely technology, right? It's AI obviously has been there for decades. Automation, RPA, that's been there for a long time too. This Gen AI is really a change that I'm going to admit I didn't necessarily see coming. But once it hit, we were jumping on it, as are so many others.
I'm happy you admitted you didn't see it coming, because if you had seen it coming, like, wow, we wouldn't be talking. You'd be sitting on a beach somewhere, probably.
Exactly.
So in your mind, if we take away AI, what is the biggest challenge that an accountant or a bookkeeper or a tax professional faces today, AI notwithstanding?
Can I cheat and pick two?
Sure.
The speed and the complexity is far greater than what we saw in the previous 10 years. Mm-hmm. And I think if we go back to the pandemic and the CARES Act coming out, it was at least the first time that I was aware where you started to get regulatory change that had effective dates that were either immediate or retroactive. Right. So you had to get up to speed, immediately, and it's not like we were going through a pandemic, so you didn't have anything else to worry about. But the other piece, and I do think that this is related, is the war on talent. Less people coming into the profession, and you've got many more people who are, looking to retire over the next 1 to 5 years. So how do you keep up to date when you don't have enough staff to do that?
So I've spoken to a number of folks who've echoed those thoughts almost verbatim. It's talent shortage, technology and evolution, and speed and rapidity of change.
Yes.
So from your perspective, let's focus on the talent shortage portion first. What can an accountant, what can a firm manager, what can a sole practitioner, what can somebody do to help address some of those shortages?
If you can automate more of the rote work, more of the lower value work, I'm not saying to replace the folks that you might not have there, but to make the profession more meaningful so that you can focus your junior staff on higher value work. We have a user conference every November, and I was actually at the table talking about talent shortages, right? And what can we do? And I was surprised but in a really good way at how creative firms were being. I heard yoga Wednesdays during busy season. I heard, look, there was someone at my table who said, we don't work weekends during tax season. And like 3 others at my table said, can we give you our card? So there's always going to be that work flexibility. I guess I am a little surprised by I'm going to use the word rigidity as to keeping folks in the office, because that seemed to be something that the junior folks at our conference, wanted the flexibility to work from home. And if you're getting the same productivity, and I know that's a big if, but if you're getting the same productivity, I'm hoping that firms will at least have an open mind about trying that. Frankly, if they do find that a work from home situation works, think about how much that opens up jurisdictionally, right? How much that opens up the talent pool for you. You're not just looking in X city, in Y state. You can really look across the US.
You're able to find the best talent.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let's pretend that I'm a firm owner or a managing partner, and I realize I may be stuck in older processes. I have challenges that I need to perhaps adopt technology to help me solve. How should I be thinking of investigating that? And once I make a selection, what are the KPIs or the metrics or the business numbers that I should be looking at to know I'm on the right course?
It's doing your due diligence. It's making sure that you find and try. I think that's huge. And try the technologies that you believe will work for you. I have seen in the last couple of years more technology roles within accounting firms, not traditional technologists, but more tax managers, tax directors who are now though in a technology role. And it's because they can translate the substantive work and the jobs to be done to what do we need from technology. And I love seeing that. That makes so much sense to me, particularly as a product person. And so if you haven't, if you don't have that role, that's one way to think about having that. And that person's, accountability, at least part of it, is to investigate and see what's out there. And then again, just kind of being able to try. Something I think is so important when you are trying new technologies is to get champions, right? And obviously that person who we just talked about, that tax director who now is wearing a technology hat, obviously going to be a champion. It's probably change management 101, what I'm talking about right now, but getting folks who are going to actually be using these technologies to try them, right? And get their buy-in, but also get their feedback, right? I think to me, that's kind of critical to making these decisions.
So just to make sure that I speak this back so that I understand, you're not saying that I need to promote one of my tax managers into a chief technology officer or head of IT. You're saying I tell that person, hey, we're really behind on technology. You seem to maybe have a bend for this or understand it a little bit better. Can you go out and do some investigation? And oh, by the way, when you do, we will have honest discussions about this.
Yes. And again, you have to find someone who wants to do this. It's not a voluntel. It truly is like a volunteer. Yeah.
And chances are there's somebody in the organization who is already, they may just be playing around with AI, but they're probably someone who is technology savvy, curious, and able to run with an idea as opposed to checking off a to-do list.
Absolutely. Right. Someone who gets energy from this stuff. Yeah. I think the important thing is to think about what are your main objectives and main priorities as a firm, as an accounting firm, and then really pick ones that truly matter and that you think are going to be impacted by the technology that you acquire.
Well, and I think, the question becomes, what is our pain point? Okay. Yes. You get a bunch of people in a room, you're going to put 50 things on the board. Mm-hmm. Well, then the question or the suggestion will be, okay, now take those 50 and begin saying which ones are more important, which ones are actually a bigger need. You'll get to one or two.
Yes.
And it might be, you might discover your biggest pain point is actually, we are burnt out. Everybody's just burnt out. At that case, that KPI of your profitability may not matter.
Right.
You might be looking at the operationals of, did we deliver as many filings this year as we did last year, but in fewer hours?
Right.
Did my team have their weekend? Did we do yoga Wednesdays, right?
Right. Exactly.
There's all sorts of different ways to measure it. Mm-hmm. Measure success for your business.
Yes.
When you have seen firms adopt some of these practices,
Yes.
like what are the stories? What are the feedback that come out of it that they're just mind blown about?
If I could for a second, innovation doesn't always have to be big. It doesn't always have to be purchasing a software platform, right? It can be small innovations that make a difference. And so hearing from folks around that table where it was clear that their firms were putting that growth mindset and building, a culture of innovation, they had a different energy about them. They really did. And talked about their place of work in a different way than others did. I know that that's not the most tangible, but it hit me in a way for sure.
It's 20 years ago, we'd have said that's not tangible.
Right.
I think what remote work, what the pandemic has taught us is they are actually tangible. They're just different numbers than what we'd normally think to look for.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's lots of ways to measure this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we throw AI back on the table and all the different things that we have now discussed, you have a crystal ball in front of you. What are we looking at in 18 to 24 months? What are some of the big changes I might be able to expect in this industry?
No, it's a great question. And again, I think it goes back to something you said. What are their pain points? What are they trying to solve? So when Gen AI came out, I had to challenge my team a lot around, this is not a solution that we're trying to find problems for, right? Like it felt like that a lot. Like, okay, we have this thing, like what problems are we gonna, solve with it? I'm like, we still have to focus on our customers' pain points. Sometimes the tool to use is going to be Gen AI. Sometimes it's going to be AI, automation. Sometimes it's none of that. And it's more process efficiencies, right? Again, innovation doesn't have to be huge. So I don't want to be prescriptive on the type of technology I'm talking about. It really does matter kind of what matters to the firm. But if they're not adopting technology that is helping them be more efficient, and especially more efficient in the compliance side of work, right? Which is so much more commoditized. Like, how are you going to differentiate yourself with compliance? Well, do it faster so that you can spend more time on the pieces that aren't commoditized, where you can really show your value, right? And that's around advisory engagements. And I also think that that's coming from clients, is they want more. They want more guidance. They want more insights. I think honestly, at the end of the day, it's keeping the quality, if not increasing the quality on your compliance, doing that faster so that you can spend more time on the advisory work. And maybe I don't want to be prescriptive that that's technology or something else, but yeah, I'm biased. I work in software.
Yeah. And that's all right. We need viewpoints from all across the board on this stuff. So when you, again, mention Gen AI, we're obviously talking generative AI here.
Yes.
What is one or two of the areas where you think, wow, this is the solution to this pain point?
So I work I oversee our tax research platforms. And we've done quite a bit of research just within Thomson Reuters with our research institute. Expectations from our customers is that Gen AI is going to help them be better, more effective in their tax research. And I couldn't agree with them more. For the most part, I know that there are tax attorneys out there, but for the most part, tax professionals are not lawyers. And yet we kind of throw them into these research platforms and expect them to know exactly how to research. To me, that really is going to make them being our customers, more impactful and more effective in what they do. So tax research to me is one area for sure. Another area for me is the summarization pieces. To me, pulling out the obligations of, not just, okay, now at least I have a summary and can understand the law change, but what do I actually have to know from my clients? So pulling out those obligation pieces, again, going more to the insights. So those are two areas at least, but I think there's a lot more out there too.
Well, they're two very clear applications. And I happen to agree with you. I think that especially on the legal side, there's huge opportunities. I worry about a reverse here with some lawmaker somewhere saying, oh, crap, they understand this now, and throwing a bunch of code in or a bunch of words into generative AI and say, make this even harder to understand.
I'm not sure regulations could be harder to understand. It's like I am dating myself, but it's like reading stereo instructions. Oh, yeah. Now, half of your audience is not going to know what I mean by that, but that's okay.
That's okay. The half that does just had a moment of zen going, yes, she gets us. Yes. I want to wrap up with two other questions for you here. And I've had fun because I've asked these questions of all of my guests.
Yes.
I want you to imagine that we have a virtual time machine, and we're going to step into this time machine. Okay. Now, forget science fiction, science fact, grandfather paradox, time travel, blah, blah. Throw that all out the window.
Okay.
We're going to press go. We're going to go back in time 10 years. And we're going to open the door, and you're going to be face-to-face with yourself 10 years ago.
Okay.
You've got 30 seconds before you get whipped back into the time machine to give yourself one piece of advice. What piece of advice would you give Nancy 10 years younger?
Enjoy the here and now. And by the way, I'm giving it to Nancy in the present too. Enjoy the here and now. Don't fret about the past, worry about the future. Just enjoy what you've got at this moment.
I'm taking that in and enjoying it as I listen to you give that information away. All right, so boom, we get whisked back into the time machine. I press the green button, and now we go from that point 20 years in the future for you and I. We go 10 years from now.
Yep.
You have 30 seconds to ask a question of yourself. What question would you ask yourself?
How did you get so thin? I'm totally kidding. What would I ask myself? Did you do what matters?
I love it.
I wouldn't mind asking the first one too. But
yeah. Well, it probably answers Ozempic or some of the
right?
generative AI answer or something.
Too easy, yeah.
As someone who works in the technology industry, I'm happy to hear you talk about both the technology side and the people side, because I think both are extremely important to this profession. Putting a twist on the ancient Chinese proverb, the best time to have prepared for the future was years ago. The second best time is right now. Don't forget to join us in Austin, May 14th through the 16th for Right Now. For more information, visit rightworks.com/rightnow. Keep practicing, keep evolving, keep moving yourselves forward. Thank you for tuning in today. And Nancy, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure.
Thank you.